I'm making this video because I need to say some things about plastic surgery. My name is Nick. I had botched rhinoplasty 14 years ago. I've been dealing with the consequences ever since. I've had reconstructive surgery and some minor surgeries to help me breathe again. I've spoken to dozens of doctors and spent about $50,000 or close to it trying to restore some normalcy in my life from making a really, really bad decision. Um, I want to tell you a little bit about what I've learned. I know more about this subject than I ever wanted to, and I'm still learning more. But I didn't expect this to be what my life was going to be about, but a large portion of the last 14 years has been about this, and even every day. I'll probably make another video about that, put that in the link below as a link. But for now, I'll just get into the things I've learned. They're my tips. You might not agree with them, but it's just been my experience so far. So one of the things that's most important is that plastic surgeons don't know they don't know what you want. So you have to communicate with them. And the problem is that they'll do almost anything to your face. So if you don't communicate really well, if you're somebody who doesn't communicate that often or holds things back, that's not a good idea. You're going to want to be extremely clear. You're going to want to know exactly what you want as well, because if you let them even make any decision, they might make a wrong decision. And if they make the wrong decision, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and it's going to it could literally ruin your life. So if you don't know 100% what you want, you just don't do it yet. You need to know every single angle, every single detail that you want, and then you need to think about that for a few years and get used to it and know that that's what you want. If you're like me and you go in there and you say, oh, do what you think is best, they don't know you. They don't know what you want. They don't know who you are. They don't know if you're gay or straight, or if you're outgoing, if you like your face, if you don't like your face. They don't know any of that. So they will make the wrong decisions for you. And they might have a poor taste. A lot of these doctors, they don't have artistic eyes, and they might be going with an old style of face that you don't know, that isn't good anymore, that isn't modern. Another thing that you need to know is there are no rules. There are no rules or regulations with plastic surgery. There is nothing telling the doctors that they must make a nose a certain way. There's no rules that say and the noses must look natural at all. The doctor can make the most unnatural, strangest form that they want and say that you agree to that. Once you go in there, you forfeit your rights. Any kind of elective surgery like this, you're forfeiting your rights the moment you go into that office. Okay, and that leads into my next. So right now the industry is not regulated, which is a huge problem. Okay, they can do things to you that hurt you, even though they take a vow, an oath that they're not going to harm people as doctors. They can do things that harm your breathing, and you can't do anything about it, which is my next point. There are no repercussions to the doctors. You cannot sue them. You cannot sue them in California. You can try, but the lawyers will not take your case. I've called dozens of lawyers. The lawyers will laugh at you. And the reason the lawyers will laugh at you is because they can't get enough money to pay for their expenses if they do sue. The most you can hope for is your money back. So, or you can hope that the person who just messed up your face comes back and operates on you again, even though you're terrified of them. It's a very difficult situation to be in. If you've ever felt powerless before, or if you've never felt powerless before, prepare to feel powerless, because you will be completely at the mercy of this person. Because otherwise you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to find a new doctor who might not know how to fix what they did. So the doctors really are operating without consequence right now, and that's a huge problem. But that's the current way that the world is. In the United States, everywhere. Another thing is these plastic surgeons can't do everything. They'll tell you they can do anything, almost anything, but they can't. Okay, one of the biggest problems is that plastic surgery today can't make a lot of natural shapes. Some of the doctors are starting to figure this out, but a lot of them don't know how to do this yet. Most of them, I'd say, they cannot make natural nose tip shapes. They can make these round, sort of cylindrical shapes, and they can make other sort of rounded, like ball-like structures on your face, but they can't make the angular ridges and shape that you see on a natural tip of a nose. When you look at plastic surgery on celebrities and wherever, what have you, you see these just round lumps, right? And that's a typical plastic surgery nose. And it's not because the person asked for that, it's because that's what they're capable of doing. And there's a few doctors that are trying to work on that and trying to change that I've seen. But for right now, you have to be very careful because that is just what the modern technology is capable of. Another thing that you have to worry about is, oh yeah, you can check my nose. For example, I have like this sort of rounded. I have a piece of ear in my nose right now, but you see it's just rounded. Just that's what I mean. And one side is collapsed because the ear is kind of off center. But the one before this, my original one that was botched, was just a round tip. But my original nose actually had like a ridges, like a shape that you see in like a natural nose. Hopefully one day doctors will be able to recreate that sort of structure, so you won't be able to tell. But you have to think about that now. There are some surgeries that have a lot better success rate than other surgeries. So if you have a bump in your nose, like a big bump on the bridge of your nose, and all you want to do is shave off that bump, that it has a much higher success rate than some of the other surgeries that are not necessarily considered universally attractive. So, universally, a lot of people do not like the large bumps on their bridge, but when you get into another realm, such as the width of a nose, and someone comes in and they say, they want their nose wider or narrower or wider, like that's all subjective. So the satisfaction right there is much lower. So for me, I asked for my nose to be narrower, except that I'm a guy. So actually, in fact, that was a bad decision. I didn't realize that until later. So, the doctor, like I said before, the doctor will just do, most of these doctors will just do whatever you ask them to do. They're not understanding or not realizing right now, we're not caught up to the level where the doctors are saying, well, you're a man, so your nose we shouldn't probably make your bridge narrower. You're not going to be happy with that. So there's a few things like, large hooks on the tip of your nose, or things that are more universally accepted. For those things, it's just easier to operate on those. But for other things that are more subjective, it's not a good idea, because you might change your mind in a couple of years and you can't reverse it, or it's extremely difficult to reverse it, and it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and your nose will be impacted functionally. You'll have breathing problems and all sorts of medical problems, like I've had. And that brings me into another important point. Oh, let me just touch on something else. Also, closed rhinoplasties, probably not a good idea. I have scars inside my nose. Other people I've talked to have had problems from closed rhinoplasties. Do an open rhinoplasty. If you're going to do any kind of rhinoplasty, do it open. A scar on the outside of your nose, or more scars on the outside of your nose, even though the scars are very minimal now. I've had closed and open. My revision rhinoplasty was closed, and was open. And open, and there's almost zero scar there whatsoever. It just healed really well, and that's a huge it's a huge bonus for your doctor, who's going to be able to see what they're doing. My original surgery and some touch-ups after that all went through the same internal scar inside, and now I have a huge lumpy scar mass there that I can't feel. It's horrible. Talk to other people. Most doctors will tell you the same thing. Patients will tell you the same thing. Do open rhinoplasties. It's easier for everybody, and the scars on the outside are not that bad for what you get in return, which is better surgery and a better result medically. So that brings me to this one, which is noses perform a critical function. So plastic surgery, when you're talking about getting your waist reduced or something like that, is something you're not going to notice every few seconds of your life. But a nose is extremely personal. You're going to be breathing through it every few seconds for your entire life. So it performs this vital. It affects your exercise. It affects your everything you do. Your performance as a human being is essentially very connected to your nose and how well your nose performs. Once you have a breathing problem, which I've had, the left side of my nose is perpetually clogged, and I can't feel part of it. And that started 14 years ago with my original surgery. But once you get, it got better when I did the revision with the tip, less collapse. But once you have a breathing problem, you will realize what's really important, and that is feeling good. Looking good, far a distant second, maybe third or fourth. Feeling good, being able to breathe, number one priority by far. Once you are not feeling good, once you can't breathe, then you start to realize, you know what, I would trade looks for functionality anytime. So that's another thing you have to realize about your nose, which is extremely important if you're considering doing something that's reductive, like narrowing your nostrils or your bridge, or something that has a really high chance of affecting your breathing. So let me into my next point, which is men's noses are very different from women's noses. So if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you're a woman, because the vast majority of rhinoplasties are from women, and there's a much higher satisfaction rate from women. But for men, from the study that I saw that analyzed social media and reviews online, it's had 87% satisfaction, closer to 87% for women, and closer to 56% satisfaction for men. So men have a much lower chance of not being satisfied. Now, from the people that I've talked to, a lot of people that I've talked to have said that number is even too high for women, the satisfaction rate. But you're going to have to take all that into consideration, and then just everything I'm trying to say right now. But for men, 56% is super low, and one of the reasons why I think it's super low is there just really hasn't been as many patients, and they haven't learned some of the key factors about men's aesthetics and men's functionality yet. And what I think those key factors are that men's noses probably need to be larger for all reasons, not just functionality, but also aesthetics. Men want to look different from women. Usually this is tendency prefer to look smaller. Men have a tendency prefer to look bigger, and this is not just the way they want to see themselves. It's the way the opposite sex wants from their partner. So when a man goes in, he says, well, what's a normal nose job? Oh, it's getting your nose smaller. And then he gets his nose smaller. He realizes, oh, wait a second, this is having a negative impact on my appearance of myself, the way I see myself, the way my partners see me, the way society sees me. Like, I should have stayed bigger, or bigger is better for me because I'm a man. And so this is something that's just really not being considered at all. I've talked to dozens of doctors. None of them, if they ever bring it up at all, it's just a mild, men, you tend to have slightly larger noses. But what they probably should be saying is, if we really understood the difference between men and women, we would be giving men larger noses, like even than their natural noses. And also men are larger, so men are breathing, are pulling in more air, and that's not a very scientific thing to say. But if you're used to breathing a certain amount of air, and then suddenly you're getting less, you're not going to be very happy, especially if you're very athletic, and that's very important to you. A lot of men they define themselves by their athletic ability. And if you define yourself by your athletic ability, and now your nose is impacting that somehow, then that's going to matter to you maybe more than the way you look. So that's very important. And if you're a woman as well, if you define yourself by your athletic ability, but you want to have a smaller nose, keep in mind that smaller noses have a lot less space for air to come in. And I have a lot of friends that are women who have had nose jobs, rhinoplasties, who are having this current problem. And yeah, there are some solutions so that you can sort of have both, like turbinate reduction. But turbinate reduction comes with its own problems, which is risk of empty nose syndrome. So so taking all those risks, you have to take all that into account. Do you want to just be athletic and look a little bit better, or are you trying to get that tiny look and sacrifice like how you feel on a daily basis, or how healthy you feel and how you perform? If you have a bad nose job, you're going to have to wait. This is another point, is that you're going to have to wait a year, okay? At least a year. If you don't know anyone who's got a nose job, then you don't know this. But if you do know someone, they will all tell you. So there's a certain amount of people are dissatisfied. With men, it's close to 50%. With women, it's who knows what exactly the number is. But you're going to have to wait a year, maybe longer, with that nose that you have now that you don't like, that maybe is bothering you, with breathing problems, before you can do anything about it. Okay. Now, during that time, you're going to be going to see other doctors. You're going to be paying $200 consultation fees to see them. Your life is going to start becoming about plastic surgery. Even if before you thought plastic surgery was just this thing that you would go into the doctor and do, now it's becoming about plastic surgery. You're spending a lot of time on this issue, and it's really eating into your life and what you thought your life was going to be about. The plastic surgery is not like a haircut. You don't just go in and get it, and if you don't like it, you can get it changed. A lot of it is irreversible, and your nose will never be the same. Okay, so it's something you want to be thinking about years ahead of time. And a lot of the plastic surgeons I've talked to, they don't realize their patients don't know this. They think that all their patients are coming in knowing years ahead of time what they want, and they're certain what they want. But a lot of patients are just, it's sort of a whim. They come in, they thought about it for a couple months, they get something they don't like, boom, now their life is basically altered. The direction of their life is completely changed for what they thought was going to be a quick, procedure, and the doctor was just going to, the professional, the doctor who's been doing this for, years and years, was always going to just know exactly what they wanted and give them the right, the right surgery. It doesn't work like that at all. So another thing that you need to know is that the website RealSelf is a promotional website for doctors. RealSelf is who pays for RealSelf? The doctors pay for RealSelf. RealSelf is a billboard, a promotional tool, a commercial promotional tool for doctors. The doctors all have 4 stars, 4.5, 5 stars, and if you try and post a negative review on there, most of the people I know who have posted negative reviews, they have them deleted. So they don't show the negative reviews on RealSelf. A lot of them, if they're too negative, they just don't show them. So there's a huge skew towards positive reviews on RealSelf. You're just not getting the complete picture on RealSelf. It is a heavily edited, censored site in the favor of the doctors. So I don't want to be all negative on this video. I have some suggestions how things could be better. If plastic surgery had more regulation, it would be good. If the plastic surgeons refused to do harmful reductive surgeries that impacted people's breathing, that would be good. Or if that were a legal requirement that they could not impact people's breathing. If the plastic surgeons did not, or would refuse to, or could, or were not allowed to create unnatural shapes, that would be great. You would know that when you're going into that surgery room, you're not going to come out with an unnatural shape. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that some of these patients are psychologically unusual. They want these unnatural shapes, but most of them, the vast majority of these patients, do not want unnatural looking noses. They do not want to be walking around with everybody being able to tell that they had plastic surgery. But the doctors don't know the difference between you and the ones who do want that. So you need to tell the doctor specifically, I want to have a natural looking nose. And, in my opinion, they shouldn't even be allowed to make unnatural looking noses because the amount of people who want those noses is very few. Um, so, so that's another problem, is that you run the risk of having that. And once you get that unnatural nose, you might have to have your nose completely reconstructed because you'll have lost all the structure there. Okay, and it's incredibly common. Like, you think that you're not going to be the one. It's closer to half the people who are having this problem. Okay, if you've had a botched surgery, um, you're gonna be feeling pretty helpless right now, and all of that, and alone. I just wanted to make this video to maybe help some people out. And if if you want to connect with me, leave a comment below. Um, it's been 14 years for me, so I the it's it's not, the wound isn't completely healed. I'm still dealing with these things, but at least I can talk about them now. And a lot of people still can't talk about these things. And what I want, or what I would like, is for people to start connecting with each other more, speaking to each other more, speaking out. Don't be embarrassed. Say what's been going on with you, because a lot of this stuff is censored from the internet. And even celebrities who have had these surgeries are not talking about them, don't feel comfortable talking about them. The plastic surgeons, kind of have the free run of everything right now, and everybody is sort of silenced. So the only way that any of this is ever going to change is by the people who have had these problems to start talking out, start speaking out, and start talking to each other and making a difference. Thank you very much for listening to this, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.